Hello, I'm Ciarán Lynch and welcome to OviCast, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode will bring you latest insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. In this week's episode, we're joined by Dr. Tim Keady to discuss the management of triplet rearing ewes and yearling ewes post-lambing. He takes us through the economics of rearing a third lamb on ewe. We discuss the energy requirements post-lambing, with Tim outlining the supplementation strategy needed to make up the shortfall. Tim outlines the role of conditioning score and suitability of ewes to managing this system. Similarly, Tim takes us through his work on yearling or 1-year-old ewes and how they need separate management. He highlights the need to ensure the nutritional requirements are met to ensure they stay on track, and we discuss potential supplementation strategies for those rearing twins and singles. We start off, however, with Tim highlighting the need to have a system to deal with multiples in a prolific flock, outlining the various options that are available.
A number of years ago, Ciarán, we did a review of the literature where we looked at what were the key factors affecting the profitability of prime lamb production from grass-based systems. And as you're probably aware, the most important factor is ewe productivity, or the litter size, or the number of lambs reared per ewe joint. As you increase ewe productivity, for a flock that scans about 1.8, you'll have about 8% triplets. If you scan about 2, you'll have 15% triplets. And if you scan 2.2, you'll have 25% triplets. So as you increase ewe productivity, you're going to have more triplets in your flock, and you're going to have to devise a system on how you're going to deal with these triplets. People deal with them in different ways. Either you could sell them as pet lambs, provided you have enough of buyers. Secondly, you can cross-foster them. Thirdly, you can develop a system of artificially rearing them. Or fourthly, you can let the mother who produced them rear them. And this is probably the most economical system of the whole lot. To me, a ewe rearing 3 good lambs is equivalent to a Holstein cow producing 10,000 litres of milk. In other words, she has to be well managed, well fed, but she will give an economic return on your investment.
Tim, let's just put that in context. What is the energy requirement for that ewe rearing triplets?
Right, let's go back here. Let's go back to late pregnancy. We all are familiar that as the ewe becomes closer to lambing, her energy requirements increase dramatically. So if 5 weeks prior to lambing, the energy requirement of a triplet bearing ewe is about 50 megajoules of ME per day. 1 week prior to lambing is 23 megajoules per ME per day. But in 2 weeks after lambing, when the ewe is rearing 3 lambs, aiming to produce 3 litres of milk, her requirements actually increases up to 33 megajoules per day. So that means that if a ewe is to produce 3 litres of milk, she needs to be well fed, needs to have enough of energy, requires enough of energy equivalent to 33 megajoules of ME. This energy can be provided, firstly, by good quality grazed grass, secondly, by concentrate supplementation, or thirdly, by mobilization of body fat. And if you can immobilize 100 grams of body fat per day, you reduce the energy requirements that needs to be consumed by the ewe by about 10%. So in a well-managed system where you're rearing triplets, you need a combination of good grass, a bit of concentrate supplementation, and having the ewes in good condition going to pasture so they can mobilize fat and reduce the amount of concentrate required.
We talked there about concentrate supplementation. We'll come back to the condition score one in a moment, but in terms of supplementation, then, to make up that shortfall in what they can eat at turnout, assuming on a field of good grass, and what they actually require, how much supplementation are we talking about and for how long?
A good ewe turned out to pasture after about a week to 10 days will be consuming about 2.5 kilograms of grass dry matter per ewe per day. And this intake will increase after about a week or two up to 3 megajoules. Grass at this time of the year has an ME concentration of 11.5 or 12 megajoules. So that equates to about 30 megajoules per day. The amount of concentrate requirement would ideally be about 0.5 kilo to 1 kilo. And preferably for the first week or two after lambing, where a ewe is rearing triplets, I would supplement with 0.75 kilos of concentrate. And after 2 weeks, I reduce this down to 0.5 of a kilo of ration of concentrate per ewe per day. And after 5 weeks, when the lambs are on creep feed, I remove the concentrate from the ewes altogether.
Just in total, Tim, how much are you putting into the ewe in that system?
In that system, we're putting in in the region of 85 to 90 kilograms of concentrate. And where this concentrate comes in, Ciarán, is that you need to feed a bit of additional concentrate in late pregnancy, and we've estimated that to be about 7 kilos relative to a twin bearing ewe. During the first 5 weeks of lactation, we're feeding about 20 kilos of ration to the ewe at pasture. And also, the lambs have access to a creep feeder where we give them a maximum of up to 300 grams of concentrate per lamb per day, and they will consume approximately 20 kilograms of concentrate per lamb from the time of birth up to the point of weaning. When you total all these up, you've got a total increase in concentrate for this system of 90 kilos relative to a ewe rearing either a single or a twin. And for that 90 kilos of concentrate, you get a return of one additional lamb. If today we value concentrate at about 45 cents, and there might be, some people say low, some people say high, but that's 450 euros per tonne or 45 cents per kilo. That equates to a cost in concentrate of 40 to 45 euro. And for that 40 to 45 euro additional cost in concentrate, you've got a lamb, which at this time last year would have been equating to about 130 to 140 euros.
So just at that breakdown, you're looking at somewhere between 20 to 25 kilos going into the ewe, and the rest is going in and creep to those 3 lambs up to the point of weaning.
I am, yeah. That's what I'm looking at. And as I said, for the first 2 weeks, I would like to get them about 0.75 of a kilo. Maybe I'm being a small bit generous, but I'm taking into account grazing situations that can vary from farm to farm. But after 5 weeks, I removed the concentrate altogether because the lambs have started on the creep feeding, and that reduces pressure on the ewe whose lactation is starting to decline at any rate.
Look, I'm maybe going a little bit back on this one, but selecting the ewe for that system, like supplementing them sufficiently, is key to avoiding things like mastitis and that later on. It's reducing that demand on the ewe. But picking that ewe and lamb maybe as well, Tim, in the first place, you mentioned there about condition, having it on their backs to mobilise. What is your target for that ewe or turnout that's going to rear 3 lambs? And maybe any comment on what lambs are suitable to go out, or are they all suitable in your opinion?
Ideally, you'd have ewes lambing down at a condition of 3 to 3.5. But that doesn't always happen, Ciarán, depending on the level of nutrition prior to lambing. When selecting a ewe to rear 3 lambs, I take into a combination the amount of milk she has, the size of the lambs, and also her body condition. Ideally, I like to have her body condition of 3 plus when she's going out with 3 lambs. But if she's got plenty of milk, she's a young to middle-aged ewe, then I have no problem dropping the condition down to 2.5. In this kind of a system, if I'm happy with the body condition score, and the ewe has got plenty of milk, and the lambs have developed a good ewe-lamb bond and are suckling well, then I'm quite happy to turn the 3 lambs and the ewe out to pasture. You must also remember, because there'll be a smaller group of ewes and you're feeding them concentrate every day, you'll have a greater opportunity to observe exactly what's happening to the lamb and to the ewes. And if there's any issues, then I would move in either to remove one lamb or take the ewe and her litter back inside if an issue develops, such as chapping on the teats in bad weather. That can become an issue.
Tim, like obviously one of the key things of that system is feeding that ewe correctly. Another system of turnout that look, and probably a lot are still lambing at the moment, is yearling ewes or ewe lambs from last year. Similar to that triplet ewe, there's a need to supplement them post-lambing. You've done a lot of work on this over the years. Maybe just take us through what's the requirements like for those, and how long or with a similar regime you will go with?
Well, the requirements for a ewe lamb is greater than the requirements for an adult ewe, because you have to take into consideration that she is also gaining body weight, or she has to grow to reach mature body weight. So in late pregnancy, I would feed these pregnant ewe lambs, depending on litter size, the same quantity that I would feed a mature ewe. For example, if a mature ewe is getting 800 grams of concentrate per ewe per day during the last week prior to lambing, carrying twins, then I would supplement the pregnant ewe lamb with the same amount of concentrate. When you turn them out to pasture, the way that I see it is that a ewe lamb that's going to rear twins is equivalent to an adult ewe that's going to rear triplets, and will require concentrate supplementation, because you don't want to put too much nutritional pressure on her and to penalise her own development and possibly run into issues with milk development and end up with stunted lambs. So the systems that we would propose is that a twin rearing ewe lamb will be treated the same way as an adult ewe rearing triplets. In other words, they'll be supplemented with about 0.75 kilos of concentrate for the first 2 weeks post-lambing, dropping down to about 0.5 of a kilogram of concentrate per ewe lamb from weeks 3 to week 5 post-lambing, concentrate was removed, while their lambs would have access to a creep feeder where we would supplement with a maximum of 300 grams of concentrate per lamb per day up till the point of weaning. I must state, Ciarán, that from weaning on the point of drafting for slaughter, all our triplet lambs and our ewe lambs do not receive any concentrate supplementation, and all lambs on the farm are just reared on grass-based system and concentrate is removed till the point of slaughter.
Tim, we see a big variation in ewe lambs on farms in terms of the weight they went around, the weight they're lambing down at. In the case of some of them yearling ewe lambs rearing singles, would you also supplement them the same as the twins? And if so, would you keep them supplemented for the same period of time?
Ciarán, you're quite correct. There's a big variation in the weight of ewe lambs at joining. Our studies would show that the optimum proportion of mature body weight is 60 to 65%. However, we have no issue in letting ewe lambs out to the ram at around 50 to 55% of mature body weight. To answer your question, in relation to single rearing ewe lambs, do they require supplement? They would probably be okay without any concentrate supplementation, but it's all down to ease of management. And by that I mean is if you've got adequate numbers of single rearing ewe lambs on your farm where you can develop and manage a separate grazing group, I would not feed them concentrate. But if you're dealing with small numbers and you don't want an additional grazing group, I would put them with the ewe lambs, yearlings rearing twins, and just manage them as one group, feeding them 0.75 kilos of concentrate for the first 2 weeks, down to 0.5 kilos of concentrate on week 5. I would withdraw it. The lambs have access to a creep feeder at 300 grams per lamb per day up to weaning at 14 weeks, and all concentrated, at which stage concentrate is removed from all lambs on the farm until drafting for slaughter.
Tim, in both cases, we're really pushing the system a little bit with the yearlings. We're pushing with triplet ewes and lambs. It's key that they actually have to be fed during that early period of lactation. That really is one of the fundamentals of success to either of those systems.
It probably is, and it may sound slightly complicated, and there will be a small amount of investment required this year, but it's a system that, when it's managed well, will return dividends. In that, with the triplet rearing ewe, you've got an additional lamb for a concentrate cost of about €40, and in this in the yearlings or the ewe lambs system where they're rearing the lambs, the additional lamb will cover their cost for keeping them until the time they're going to the flock as a replacement, and if they rear a second lamb, that will go as a total profit.
Tim, good having you on, certainly timely. Thanks again for that update.
Ciarán, thanks very much.
Okay, that's it for this episode. For either of these systems to work really well on your farm, they need to be managed correctly. And as Tim has highlighted, meeting that nutritional requirement, particularly in that early post-lambing period, is key to that success, both for the impact of the system and on subsequent performance of those ewes or yearling ewes in your flock. That's it for me for this episode. For any other updates on our sheep program, keep an eye on our Twitter page at Teagasc Sheep. I'm Ciarán Lynch. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and listen in to any of our episodes.